So here's another example of how Vegas was able to offset the money on this particular matchup. Now it's the same way, it just happened in a different way. Whereas opposed to happening in the first half, it happened in the second half where they were able to offset all this money. So Vegas had no intention or no idea that the Saints would cover the first half. So they ended up covering the first half in this matchup 6-3. So the opening line, the first half, let's go to the first half here and check what the first half line was. So if it was half a 3, it's going to be 1.5 or so. Or okay, so it was 1.5. So obviously the opener was 2.5. It dropped a little bit. Give or take, these lines vary, but for the most part, the close was 1.5, 1. Okay, so there was a lot of money here coming back in on the Saints. Like here at Bet Rivers, it was getting juiced at -125. So the first half, the Saints ended up covering this game. But for the full game, the Saints was getting tons of action, because if you look at the full game line, all right, so if you go to the full game, it was getting juiced. The full game line was getting juiced at -130. All right, so Caesars was juicing at -130. Everywhere else, it was getting juiced at -3. They didn't want to move off of that -3 because look what happened. The final score here was 20-17. Okay, so this is a game where if they moved off of this key number of -3, they would have gotten crushed on this game, because if it opened really at 2.5 here, they would have bet the -3. Sharps would have came back on the 3.5, and they would have hit both sides because it landed 20-17 here. So this is why they didn't move off of the 3. All right, so we know that the Saints are getting heavy action here. If it's getting juiced at -130, they're getting heavy action. All right, so the first half, we know it was 1. So if you run the video, the first half, obviously the Saints covered 6-3. Okay, so right now the sports books are losing. They're down in this matchup. Okay, they lost the first half. They're covering, or at least pushing, on the full game. If you got 2.5, they're winning it so far. Now if we skip ahead to the full game here, notice what happens at the end with about 11 minutes to go. Okay, so we got Bryce Young, which he pretty much wasn't doing anything great in this game, but somehow with about 2 minutes left, he was able to drive them from the 30 all the way to score a touchdown. All right, so he drives them down the field somehow, and right now it's 20-9. It looks like the sports books are going to lose 3 ways here. Okay, so they already lost the first half. They got juiced on -3. The full game line, the public is heavy on the Saints, and the second half was -0.5 on the Saints. Okay, so it's -0.5. They were up by 3, so they would have to win by 4. All right, so somehow Bryce Young gets them down the field, and then what's going to happen is they're going to convert the 2-point conversion, and it's going to end up at 20-17. So that's how they were able to offset a lot of that money. So they ended up covering the second half line at +0.5. So Carolina ended up covering +0.5 second half. So the sportsbooks actually sort of broke even. I wouldn't say broke even, but they kind of got all their money back, whereas they could have lost 3 times on this game. They ended up either paying out the people that took it at early at -2.5 on the Saints, pushed on all the -3 bets, and got the first half money that they lost in the second half by Carolina coming back and backdooring the -0.5 and covering by 0.5 point. So that's how they got all that money back, and they offset that action that was coming in pretty strong on the Saints here at -3. Saints should have covered this game at -2.5, but that's how the game went. So that's just another example of how Vegas was able to offset all that money on New Orleans in this matchup. So I'll be back with some more videos. So comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you then.